Okay, guys. So I'm hoping that you looked through at least some of the videos that I showed you, but if you didn't, don't worry. It's not too important to have watched them. Like I said before, I'm gonna try to get you guys up to date or not up to date, but like up to speed or whatever. Um, anyhow, the first thing that you're gonna want to do um, when you log into Onshape is you're gonna want to say my account, and then under preferences, you're going to want to change your unit to either centimeters or millimeters, because that's just the unit that um, we use when we're designing cubes. You can change these too if you want, or any of these other settings, but that one's the most important. Okay, now that you've done that, we're going to click Create Document, and you should already know how to do this. Anyhow, but I'm going to name this 3x3 just to keep it simple. Create public document. And there you go. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you get this document is you're actually going to want to add some tools. So you're going to want to go here into this. The first thing you do is you click on this little Add Custom Features tab, and then you look up DISOUSA''S tools. And these are some tools that are made by a friend of mine. You can find him on Toasty Puzzles forum, and they were made specifically for making Toasty Puzzles. So they're really nice. They work really well, and they just make everything a little bit simpler. So with that in mind, you're going to want to click on the little arrow over here and move down and make a, let's see, what do we want to do? Click on Polyhedron Generator. So what that's going to do is it's going to bring up this little wizard over here in this part of the screen, and you're going to want to click on the origin, and then let's make a cube, and we want the edge length to be, let's make it 56 millimeters. I don't know what all those little squares are, but I'm just going to ignore them for now. And that's good. And then now you have your little cube. So I'm hoping you watched the who was it by the first few tutorials, not on how to use Onshape, but how to design puzzles. But in case you didn't, I'll try to sort of go over everything that you need to know. But when you're designing a Rubik's Cube, the way you do it is you make a plane, and then you use that plane to cut up the cube into the pieces. So right now I'm going to draw the most basic Rubik's Cube slice or pattern or whatever you want to call it that you could have. So you see I have these 3 lines, and then let's add a little bit of an arc here. We'll see center point arc. Click on the center, click on there, and then move down until it snaps into the vertical position. We can move this out a little bit. Just click on the line and drag. Maybe move this piece in a little bit. Move this over. This isn't in exact thirds, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Okay, and then you want to press L to make a line. Press Q to make it a construction line. That just means that when you make a construction line, it won't actually turn into any geometry. You'll just use it as sort of a reference. Okay, and now we have our basic shape, or our basic plane that we're going to use to cut the pieces out. So I'm going to go up into this top left corner and click on Revolve. And then instead of solid, you want to say surface. And then you want to select all those edges. And then revolve axis, we're going to choose that construction line that we made. So that's what it's going to revolve it around. And if you see here, just let me hide the cube down in this little menu down here. And that is what it made. Again, I'm not sure what all these squares are on the screen over here. Hopefully that isn't too distracting. Anyhow, so this is the surface that it made. So we made that, that's good. And oops, Now what you're going to want to do is, let me click Show All Parts, right click and then Show All Parts, is you're going to want to go back up into this menu up here, and you're going to want to say Construction Axis. And what this does is you first click on the origin, and then you want to say through faces of body, click on this, and let's increase this so it's 50 millimeters. And what that does is it makes a bunch of curves here. You see there's this line here and line here and line here. And what we can use that to do is we can use that to pattern other objects around. So if you don't understand what that means, that's okay. I'll show you an example of it right now. So you're going to want to go up to this little pattern drop-down menu here, and you're going to want to say circular pattern. And then in the little wizard over here, the entity that you want to pattern is that plane or that surface that we just made. And then the axis of pattern is going to be this axis up here. And what that does is it naturally selects 4 instances, so you don't have to change that, and 360 degrees, that's good too. And there you go, we have all 4 of these little these planes around the cube. So now that we have those, we're going to need a couple more, because if you look at it right now when it's cutting up the pieces, it's cutting them up into sort of like a floppy cube, because there's these layers in the middle don't have any pieces. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up and we're going to want to click on the little translate icon up here, transform. You're going to want to click on this plane. So if you look up here, this is front, this is top, and you're going to want to choose that plane over there. It doesn't have to be exactly the same like that, but if you're trying to follow along, select that one, and then you're going to want to drop down and say rotate around this axis over here. And instead of 30 degrees, let's make that 90 degrees, and then copy part. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to make a little another surface here just to cut off this top layer of pieces. So now if you look at it, you can see that we actually have all those pieces there. You can zoom in, you have an edge piece here, a corner piece here, and a center piece there, at least from the outside. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide that outer part, and you can sort of see where the different pieces are going to be. And now we're going to click on this, and we're going to want to say, so back to this guy's tools, and you're going to want to say multi-surface split. And this is a real lifesaver. Before this guy made his tools, you'd have to, for every time you wanted to split a part, which is the basic function that you use when you're making twisty puzzles, is splitting parts. You'd have to click on that, click on one plane, and then click done, and then you'd have to do the whole thing all over again. You'd have to click split. This is a split tool, by the way, and then you'd have to click on all the parts and then click on one plane. But with this multi-surface split, you can click on as many surfaces as you want. It'll go through them and it'll split these entities with all those different parts. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to click on these 3 faces and I'm going to right click them and say hide other parts. Now we can look at it and you can see just how that original sketch made these pieces. So before I get too far into this, let me show all parts, and we're going to just delete all the non-unique parts. So if you look at a regular Rubik's Cube, you'll notice all the edges are the same, and all the centers are the same, and all the corners are the same. So I'm going to click delete, oh, not delete face, never mind, that's wrong. This one, delete part, and click on all the extra edges. So all the ones other than the ones which I had there a second ago. There you go. Now we have our 3 pieces. So if you notice here, this corner, the stock is a little bit narrow. So why don't we go change that? And this is where you can sort of see how cool it is to work with a tool like Onshape, where it's a CAD tool. because what you can do is you can go back into the original sketch. Sorry if you didn't see how I did that. You go into this little bar over here, and in this bar you have all the different features you have. So every single time you click on one of these things, it makes a new feature right where this bar is. So we're going to go back, double click on sketch 1, and we want to make this corner a little bit larger. So I'm going to grab this line here and move it over, and then click yes or affirm or whatever, and you notice it made that edge a little bit larger. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into this. Oh, let's click on this to rotate. By the way, if you're in a random rotation, you can press N and it'll bring you normal to the plane. So you'll be facing the plane. So I want to make this into thirds because a normal Rubik's Cube has thirds. So I'm going to press L to make a line, Q to make it a construction line, and we're just going to click, drag out. You'll notice there's a little square with a horizontal line. So you do that once, twice, 3 times, press escape, and then I want to select all these 3 segments and press E to make them equal. And then what you're going to want to do is click on this point here, zoom in, and click on the corner of the cube, and then press I, or if you don't want to press I, you can click this little button up here, coincident, and that'll make those 2 points in the same spot. So we can move over here, click on this point here, click on the other corner, and press I, and there you go, we have this thing divided into 3. So now you're going to want to click on this line here, click on that point, and once again press I, and now we have it exactly in thirds. So let's just click done and see how that changed everything. Okay, so that's looking better. But if you look at a regular speed cube, things don't look exactly like this. This is the mechanism that a regular Rubik's Cube would use. But with a speed cube, things are a little bit different. And the way that you can look at the design, or the way that you can sort of like copy another design, is just take out one of the edges and look at it from the side. So you see this sort of looks like a Rubik's Cube if you look at this line here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just delete all these lines, and I'm going to redesign it as if, like, or not as if, I'm going to sort of copy a general speed cube design. So first thing I'm going to do is draw this line down here, and then make it coincident with this point here. Let me actually rotate this around so it's like I was looking before. There you go. And then the first thing I'm going to do different is, these 2 need to be horizontal. There you go. That's much better. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line out like this. You'll notice that on a lot of edges. It goes like that, and then after that it goes down like that. And then after that it comes down over. And let's add another center point arc from here to there. And by the way, this is just sort of making the core of the puzzle, because if you don't do that, then you'll have to subtract the core out of the puzzle. So let's move these lines around a little bit, just sort of get a little bit of a better design. And I'm going to add a few construction lines, one from here to the top. Press escape, and then L, Q to make a line, and then construction line. Click from there to the corner. And this line here is just going to make it so we can we can see the distance that this is to it. Because if you make it past this line here, this is an edge divided in half, then the edge won't have anything, like this part of the edge won't be connected to the foot of the edge. So let's make it a safe distance from there. Can maybe move this around a little bit, and let's go into the revolve. So I clicked off of that, double clicked on this one, and since we removed all the old lines, we're gonna have to re-click on all the new lines, click check. You're gonna have to reselect this here, and then reselect this here for the transform, and then multi-surface split. You're going to want to delete all of these old ones and then add the new surfaces. Oh man, it's not working. Let me see. Oh, I see what happened. Let's go back. So the cube's still there. So if you look here, you see these surfaces don't go all the way out of the cube. So that's not too big of a problem. You can just go into the original sketch, press N to be normal once again, drag this line up, check mark, and now the split worked. So the split function, or the multi-surface split function, will not work unless the surface goes all the way through the part. So let's go back and re-enable the delete part thing, and there you go. Let's look here. Oh my, you see how tiny that corner stock is. So we can go back into the original sketch and to be normal, 2 again, and let's drag this out even a little bit more. We can drag this out a little bit. Check mark. Ooh, that's a lot. So now you'll notice that this has a lot more here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension a couple of these different parts just to like set them at an exact value. So let's go back into the sketch. Let's rotate around. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension this line here. I mean this line here to this line here. And what I'm going to be doing is making it so that this corner here is sort of like more of a perfect, what would you call it? A perfect like triangular prism. So I'm going to just copy this value from another sketch, but basically the way that I found it is I made a plane. Let's go back to here. I made a plane of the cube when it was looking like this, and then I just found the angle between there and there. I found the angle like from the base up to there. So let's go back into that sketch, and to be normal too, zoom in, and I'm gonna go over and copy that value. Okay, so I got it, and you're gonna want to make it, oh, whoops, wrong thing. So, sorry, I didn't tell you what I was doing. You're gonna want to press D or click on this little tool up here, Dimension, and this is another thing which is really cool about CAD tools. What you do is you click on one line, you're gonna want to click on that line, and then click on this line here, and it recognizes that you want an angle, and so you click out, and you type in what angle you want it to be. So I'm going to round this to 54.74 degrees, and that's not that much different, but if we click yes or affirm or whatever, you'll notice that it's more of like these corner stalks are like sort of it's straight, and that's always nice. So let's go back into the sketch. Ooh, let's see. There you go. And I'm going to start moving these things around. So if you notice, the stock for the corner is really large, so I'm going to move that a little bit away, and then I'm going to move that down. Let's see what that does. That's pretty good. And then let's hide the, not that, that's the center. Let's see, hide the center. Sort of look at the edge. Edge is looking pretty good. And we are going to be changing a lot of stuff here, so don't worry that much about it, about the different stuff that's on the edge that doesn't look right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go back into this, unhide the thing. I sort of like this being a little bit wider. Again, you can change this yourself to however you like it, or you can try to copy a speed cube that you have in your collection. One thing that I am going to change is I'm going to make a torpedo. So let me first delete this coincident there, and that's going to basically make it so I can separate these two pieces. And then what you're going to want to do is make a line from here coming up. Press escape to get out of that, and then use a center point arc. And click on one point, and just click out. Doesn't matter where it is. Click on these two, and press I, and it'll put them in the same spot. So if we do that, oh, we need to go back in and reselect all those surfaces. So let's see, go into the Revolve, and we're going to add these two parts. That should do everything. Oh, nope, we're going to have to redo all that, so it's not that much work. Just have to click on this. Click on this. Is that right? Let's see. I'm not sure if that's right. Let's see. Oof. Whoops. I think that's right, yeah. I'm looking up here at this to make sure that it's the top layer. And then multi-surface split, you're going to want to get rid of all those. Click on all those. That's good. Oh, I clicked the X instead of the check mark. Yeah, let's delete all the old ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Confirm, and there you go. Let's just look at this piece. Hide other parts. I right-clicked on the face, by the way. And you see there's a nice little torpedo there. So yeah, the torpedo is also just looking at the side of an edge, how it looks, and I just drag that line down. You can let me unhide the sketch. If you look at the sketch there, this looks very similar to the original sketch. You see the sort of all those different lines, like there's that line, and then that line, and then that line, and then it comes over here. Anyhow, so let's see, are there any last changes? Oh, I know what I want to do. So the core of the puzzle, you're going to want to make sure that the core of the puzzle can actually fit in it. So I'm going to dimension this. Oh, let's see. Go back and edit that again. Let's hide that. Okay, let's see. It's bugging out on me. Let me reload the page and see if that helps anything. Okay, we're back. So yeah, like I said, you're going to want to dimension the core so the core can actually fit in it. So I'm going to hit D for dimension, click on there, and that's going to make a radius for this, and I think the diameter is 20, so I think 10 should be good. I'm not sure. Let's make it 15 just to be safe, so we have a little bit of extra space. And then once you have that set, you can move these pieces around. Move this over, maybe move the torpedo over a little bit. Just sort of tweak everything. Maybe 15 is a little bit large. How about 12.5? That sounds good. Man, that's very different. Yeah, I can't move that. I can move this down a little bit now. And let's make this about in half. And let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup, and then I think that'll pretty much finish up this episode. You'll notice here that the center has a bunch of stuff that we don't need. So I'm going to be getting rid of that, and this is sort of the first of the sort of showing you tools that you can use. Because in a regular 3x3, you wouldn't really have this problem here. There wouldn't be this extra stuff unless you're making a torpedo. So what I'm going to do is go up to Delete Face, click on that tool, and then you're going to want to click on all the faces you don't need. So I'm going to click on that face, that face, that face. Let's keep on going around, selecting all the faces. That face, that face, that face, that face, and that face. And once you've done that, it just gets rid of it. This is just why it's so cool to work with a CAD tool that's really powerful. If you, before this, worked with Blender or something, then this is like totally crazy, like that it has the power just to get rid of that and then regenerate and everything. Or regenerate the mesh, and it's all perfect. Anyhow, so let's show the parts, and what else do we need to get rid of? Oh, I know. Right here, let's take the corner, hide other parts, and I'm going to get rid of that little part here so we can select all the faces we don't like beforehand. And then click Delete Face. And boom, it's gone. One last thing before I stop for today. I think I'm going to add tolerances. So the way that you add a tolerance, or that at least the way that I was taught, I know this is different from other people, is you look at a part and you sort of pull the part out. And the faces that are affected by when you pull a part out are the ones that you're going to want to move down. So let's take this corner here, and when you pull, let's hide the other parts. Select that face, right-click, hide other parts. When you pull this edge out, this surface, this surface, this surface, this surface, this surface, and this surface are affected, or would be being pulled against. So I'm going to select all those faces, and I'm going to go up here into this menu, and I'm going to click Move Face. This is the one that you're going to be using a lot, at least for tolerancing. And I'm moving it in the opposite direction, and we're going to be doing 0.0 or 0.5 millimeters. So that's a little bit much. You can just adjust that. 0.05. Let's look. Let's try 0.1. I'm just going in and changing it just so it looks good. And that looks pretty good. So now that we have the corner piece done, I'm going to go ahead and hide the corner piece and then show, not the center piece, I want the corner. Oh, I always call edges corners, I don't know why. Sorry about that, if I confused you. So once again, you're like pulling the corner out, and the faces which would be affected are this face, this face, this face, and I think that's it for a corner. And then we can hide the corner, show this one, and once again you pull the center out, and these are the faces which would be affected. So that's pretty good. Click the little check mark. Show all parts, right click on the background, and if you look here, you'll notice there's a little bit of a gap between the pieces, and that just allows them to move a little bit smoother, especially if you're 3D printing the part, which you probably are going to be doing, because I don't think anyone who watches these tutorials will have access to an injection molding machine, or the funds for that. So it just allows the part to move a little bit smoother. Sometimes you use larger tolerances, sometimes you use smaller tolerances. Anyhow, but I think that's going to pretty much finish up this tutorial. We've gotten pretty far. We have the basic design for all the parts done, and in the next few tutorials what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be focusing on one single part, and I'm going to be finishing off one part at a time. So the next one, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but probably going to focus on the corner or on the edge, maybe the center. I'm probably going to do the center last, and we're just going to work on that edge and tweak it until we have what we want, and then when I'm done with it, I'm going to stop that episode and then start the next one. So yeah, I hope you guys found this informative. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments or to email me. My email is in the my YouTube description. It's you have to click on a little button to like prove you're not a robot, and then you can copy the email. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative. Make sure to subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss the next episode. And I guess I'll see you guys next time.